The morning rush at Westbridge International Airport was loud, chaotic, and impatient, just like any ordinary travel day, until a single bark shattered the routine. It wasn't the casual alert of a working dog doing its rounds. It was sharp, urgent, and echoing with a strange kind of desperation that made heads turn instantly. Officer Mara Jensen felt her pulse spike as her K-9 partner, Rex, lunged toward a navy blue suitcase abandoned near the carousel belt. His growl wasn't aggressive, it was fearful, warning, almost pleading. The kind of sound he only made when something was terribly, terribly wrong. Passengers stopped mid-stride. Another bark, even louder this time, cut through the air. Officers rushed in. Something was inside the suitcase. Something alive. Before we go deeper into this emotional story, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of humanity. Your support helps these stories reach more hearts. Mara's hands trembled slightly as she knelt beside the suitcase. She had handled countless inspections, drugs, contraband, dangerous items, but there was something different here. Rex's tail was stiff, his eyes fixed on the luggage with an intensity that warned her this wasn't just a suspicious object. This was a cry for help. She placed her palm on the lid. It was warm. Too warm for an empty suitcase. Her breath caught. With a silent prayer, she unzipped it slowly, fearing the worst yet hoping for something she could save. As the zipper reached the end, the lid lifted, and the world around her froze. Nestled inside, wrapped in a pink fleece blanket, was a tiny child, no more than 2 years old, sleeping peacefully beside a small stuffed toy as if she belonged there. For a moment, everything went still. The officers standing behind Mara gasped in unison, some covering their mouths, some shaking their heads, unable to understand what they were seeing. The little girl's blonde curls were messy but soft, her cheeks flushed from the enclosed heat of the suitcase. Mara felt a lump rise in her throat. The airport noise seemed to fade, replaced by the pounding of her heartbeat. It wasn't the shock of a crime scene, it was the shock of innocence placed in unimaginable danger. She gently touched the girl's tiny fingers, and the child stirred, blinking up in confusion, unaware of the chaos she had caused, or the life she had narrowly escaped. "You're okay," Mara whispered under her breath, though the words felt fragile, uncertain. She had no idea where this child came from, who had left her, or why. The officers moved quickly, establishing a perimeter and calling medical professionals, while passengers murmured, filming, gasping, whispering theories. But Mara ignored everything except the child cradled now in her arms, small and trembling. It was as if the world had given her a responsibility she wasn't prepared for yet felt destined to accept. Rex sat beside her, calmer now, as though satisfied he had fulfilled his duty. His brown eyes stayed locked on the little girl, protective and gentle. Mara had worked with him for 5 years, and she had never seen him react this way to any human before. As paramedics arrived and examined the toddler, Mara couldn't shake the unease building inside her. Suitcases don't walk into airports on their own. Someone had put the child inside intentionally. Someone had zipped her in. Someone had abandoned her. The horrifying realization washed over her like ice, but she pushed it down, focusing instead on the rising challenge before her. The airport cameras were quickly reviewed. Agents scoured footage for a person matching the travel patterns tied to the suitcase. But what they found only deepened the mystery. The suitcase had been left behind by a young woman, visibly distressed, checking over her shoulder again and again before setting it down near the carousel. The woman didn't run. She simply placed the suitcase gently on the floor, whispered something to it, and walked away, slowly, heartbreakingly, and with her face hidden beneath a hood. When officers attempted to track her outside the terminal, she had disappeared into the crowds as though she had been swallowed by the city. No name. No information. No flight records. Nothing. But Mara felt something tug at her chest as she watched the footage. The woman didn't look like someone who wanted to harm a child. She looked like someone fleeing something far worse. Something that terrified her enough to hide her own daughter inside luggage. Something, or someone, she believed was after them. The suitcase wasn't a cruel act. It was a painful last resort. As the day went on, the toddler, who nurses nicknamed Lily, remained under hospital care. She was dehydrated but otherwise unharmed. Mara visited her late that evening, standing by the crib as the little girl slept, holding the same stuffed animal found with her. Something about her innocence struck deep in Mara's heart. She had grown up in the foster system, bouncing from home to home until she aged out. She remembered feeling abandoned, unwanted, forgotten. Looking at Lily, she saw a reflection of her younger self, a child who needed safety, warmth, certainty. And Mara knew she couldn't walk away. The investigation continued the next day, revealing the suitcase belonged to a flight from another city. Officers contacted local authorities, hoping to find missing child reports or leads on the mysterious woman. A breakthrough came when an officer recognized the teddy bear, a limited edition plush toy given by a charity to children in crisis shelters. That led them to a women's shelter 2 states away. The staff confirmed a young mother had stayed there briefly with her toddler. The mother, named Clara, had fled an abusive partner who had been tracking her relentlessly. She spoke of threats, fear, isolation. She had no money, no family, and no safe way out. Eventually, she left the shelter in panic, afraid the abuser would find her there. The more Mara learned about Clara, the more she felt a knot tightening inside her. This wasn't abandonment. It was desperation. A mother trying to save her child in the only way she believed was possible. There was no cruelty in her actions, only terror. And Mara understood that feeling too well. She knew what it was like to feel hunted by circumstances you didn't ask for, to run from shadows that the world refused to acknowledge. She also knew what it was like to feel utterly alone. Later that week, officers traced Clara to a bus station surveillance feed. She looked thinner, exhausted, fragile, like someone barely holding on. She had none of the belongings she had when she left the shelter. No suitcase. No child. No hope. She boarded a bus heading north, but she got off halfway in a small town, where officers finally located her, sitting alone on a park bench at dawn, hugging her knees, staring at nothing. When Mara approached her, Clara's eyes filled with tears before a word was spoken. She didn't resist. She didn't plead. She simply asked, in a trembling voice, whether her daughter was alive. The heartbreak in that single question was enough to crack even the most hardened officer. Mara sat beside her and gently told her the truth, that Lily was safe, healthy, and waiting. Clara's sobs were soft, fragile, and full of relief. She collapsed into Mara's arms, apologizing repeatedly for what she had done, explaining between gasps how she believed someone would find the suitcase faster than if she left Lily exposed. She couldn't risk her daughter being discovered by the person she feared. The suitcase, to Clara, had been the only chance of saving Lily from a fate far worse. Authorities investigated Clara's claims, and soon enough, the abusive partner was located and arrested. Clara's story, once fragmented and chaotic, began to knit together into something heartbreakingly clear, a mother trying to protect her child with the only strength she had left. During the following weeks, Mara visited Clara and Lily often. Something shifted within her during those visits. She wasn't just a responding officer anymore. She felt connected to this fragile mother-daughter pair in ways she hadn't expected. She saw the fear in Clara's eyes slowly fade each time she held Lily. She saw the child's innocent laughter return. She saw hope rebuilding itself piece by piece. And she saw Rex, her loyal canine partner, gently nudging Lily's hand every time they met, forming a bond that felt almost magical. For Mara, who had spent years fearing emotional attachment and burying old wounds from her childhood, the experience became transformative. She found herself staying late, offering support, bringing toys, learning Lily's routines, helping Clara with paperwork, guiding her toward counseling and safe housing. Something inside her, something she thought had long died, began to glow again. She felt purpose not just in her badge but in her heart. But one moment became defining above all others. One afternoon, as Mara was about to leave, Clara held her back with trembling fingers and whispered that she didn't know how to repay her. She explained how Mara had become the first stable person in Lily's life in a long time, and how she felt that fate had placed Mara in their path not as an officer, but as an anchor. Hearing this, Mara felt tears burn behind her eyes. Clara wasn't asking for anything. She was offering gratitude, the kind that could change the course of someone's life. Months passed, and Clara finally obtained full legal protection, a stable home, and therapy that helped her slowly rebuild her broken spirit. Lily grew stronger, more playful, more joyful. And Mara remained present in their lives, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. The bond they shared didn't fade after the case closed.